The Lego group knew that we would buy over and over again in order to make things bigger and expand.
Hey Lego fans, my name's Graham and I'm here with Daniel, and we're here to have a chat that's been sparked by the new minifigure vending machine set. We were kind of talking, thinking, wondering, does the Lego group lean into the idea of Lego being a system enough when it comes to the products? And this was sparked, Daniel, because of this new Lego vending machine set, which is full of minifigures. Logically so, because this is like a gumball machine that you would get outside stores and things, where you put a coin in, you crank the thing, and you get some sweets or like a little toy out of it or something. And the fan designer of this set built one of these things that dispenses minifigures. So it's a really cool concept.
Yeah, it really is. And first of all, this is a quick aside. As an adult looking back, how unsanitary and gross are those machines? I remember walking out of the grocery store with my mom for years, always wanting one of those, and she'd always say no. And now I totally get it. Like, I mean, how old is that candy, and like how many hands of anyway, not what we're here to talk about. But yeah, it is. So again, it just about killed me when I saw this thing first come out. But all those desirable minifigures, right? From the different colored astronauts, the classic space astronauts, to, the new insignias for the castle guys, to the Fabuland prints. I mean, just every single one of these minifigures is super desirable. And of course, this is the only place that you can get it. And so, to army build, or to get, if you have a spaceship that you wanted to have 5 of those teal astronauts on, you're either going to have to get 5 copies of this set, or you're going to have to go and, pay whatever price on Bricklink or, eBay in order to get individual ones. I'm sure there will be tons of people buying these, tons of third-party resellers buying these to part out, and bless them for it, because, that's going to be the only real practical way, right, to in any way get a decent number of any of these figs, if that's what you want to do. And so, yeah, it is kind of an interesting handicap maybe to the system sometimes, where if you want enough of a particular piece, or enough of a particular character, or even a whole section of a set, right, you have to really, it's difficult to pull that off to varying degrees depending on what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, and this is a question that's kind of come up before, because when we met with Jordan Scott, who's the creative lead on Lego Ideas, about the Orient Express set, he was talking about the difficulty in knowing, like, how many carriages do you put into the box? How big do you make this set to make sure that it's like a satisfying display model, to make people feel like they've got a full train experience, especially because this was a passenger train and so on. So I was asking then about the idea of, like, well, because Lego Ideas is the fan-driven platform, because it's the slightly experimental part of things, is there no way that you could release the carriages separate to the train? Is there no way that you could buy the engine, and then you could buy 1 carriage if you want 1 carriage, or 2 if you want 2, or 3 or 4, and if you wanted, you could have a huge long Orient Express running all along the side of your room, if you so desire. But the way he put it to me was that Lego Ideas has a certain number of boxes each year that they can deliver, and they can't just turn up one day and say to, the decision makers in, I guess, the logistics side of the Lego group, oh, by the way, that one product that we were going to make is actually 2 different boxes, and we're going to, But I found that really interesting, because back when Lego Ideas first started, I mean, you didn't even have to necessarily have a finished model of your idea. It really was just an incubator for sort of fans to throw ideas into the mix. But now it's become a much more kind of structured, I don't want to say traditional Lego theme, because obviously how can a traditional Lego theme be getting its concepts from the fan community? But it's somewhere in between, like this wild experimental place and a traditional Lego theme. It's kind of fitting somewhere in the middle of those two things.
Yeah, it feels like more of what it is. The experimental side is in the subject matter, and not necessarily the models themselves. But it is interesting that you bring up trains in this kind of context, because the Lego Group did actually do this back in the late 90s and early 2000s with first My Own Train. And then there was kind of this, uh, it was pre Lego Ideas, pre kind of creator expert. But there was this period of time where they did a bunch of different train models, like the most famous of which would be the Santa Fe Super Chief, where it was, this gorgeous, classic, famous train engine. But a little lesser well known is that they also did make train cars for it, where you could buy an individual train car. I know I think it was a passenger car, and then also a mail car. But they were sold individually, like you just bought the carriage, so you could buy as many of them as you wanted, and it was the same with My Own Train, right? So each of those sets was something that if you wanted, 10 of those passenger carriages, you could buy 10 of them and string them together. And lots of people did, because I mean, if you go to conventions today, you can see, in almost every train layout, there's a bunch of these, My Own Train sets that were strung together and kept and, now get displayed. And I think the Lego Group was that was a time where they were they were beginning to have conversations with the fan community. And that was what we told them that we wanted, was, the ability to buy a bunch of these different cars so that we could make our trains, as big and as long as we wanted them. But it's really the only time that they did that within the world of trains, right? Because I mean, soon thereafter, when you got into, like, say, the Emerald Knight, that came with its train cars, and you could not buy them separate, right? So if you wanted to, and lots of people did, like I've seen, Emerald Knight is still a favorite amongst, displayers and train fans, and go to conventions and you'll see long lines of these tan cars that it's like, my gosh, that must have cost so much in order to get that. And the resellers know it, right? When you go in any of the train sets, whether it's a Hogwarts Express or, something from the Creator Expert line or anything else.
Well, even for the Winter Village holiday train, the second one, I felt that looked really odd, going around my Christmas tree with only one passenger carriage. I felt like it needed two. So I literally diligently kind of worked out what parts I needed to build a second carriage, and ordered all these parts and everything, just so that I could have like a bit of symmetry or something, so that it just kind of felt like a fuller train. It just felt like such a natural place to duplicate something and to do that extra bit of building. But it seems to me that the system lends itself really well. I mean, obviously the system lends itself well to doing that. It lends itself well to expanding things. And that's why it's so surprising that, like, those My Own Train experiments kind of didn't last very long. And it's something that the Lego Group hasn't really explored since.
Yeah, and you do kind of wonder why. Like, I mean, especially at that time, right? Because that was before power functions or any of these kind of more accessible electrical systems that they use now. So it was still the old 9-volt, where it was kind of that traditional HO train model of electrified track that then, the electricity came up through the wheels and powered a motor that moved the train. And so, like, they did that experimentation within a very niche market, where, the My Own Trains is going to appeal to. I mean, I remember seeing them in catalogs. I was, I think, in high school at the time, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. But trains were such an investment. There was such a high bar for entry at that time. And so I think maybe this was like a place where, that people that were already within the train world, that had already made that initial investment, that heavy lift, like this was, something that the Lego Group could do for them that would allow them to expand. But I think probably part of the reason we don't see this more often is that it's kind of not in the Lego Group's best interest, right? If we're being honest, like, I think about, this is something that came out somewhat in the same time period, a little bit later than My Own Train, but Cafe Corner, the first official modular building. And at the time, a huge part of Cafe Corner, the whole modular experiment, was that the Lego Group had made this one set. It was, I think it was called Building Bonanza, that adults were buying 5, 10 copies of this set because it was a little house. And so we wanted neighborhoods. And so, hey, this was our chance to get a whole bunch of houses. So the Lego Group knew that we would buy over and over again in order to make things bigger. And so on the back of the Cafe Corner box is they actually took a bunch of the middle floors, right? Because at that time, and they've messed with this formula now a little bit, but modulars historically were always 3 floors, base, the ground level, some mid level, and then the top. And so it's that mid-level that's really important, right? If you want to make a building taller, you need multiple copies of that mid-level. And so they actually showed this on the box as a way to entice people to, hey, look, this is what you can do with this. You can put it together. If you buy 5, 6, 7, 10, 20 copies of this set, like there's no limit to how tall you can make this building. And obviously, like we would love to be able to just go to the Lego Group and say, hey, I'll happily buy, 10 copies of, just the middle floor of the latest modular building so that I can make it taller. But like, let's be real, if you're that committed to making your modular taller, you'll probably figure out a way to acquire more of those, whether it's, buying multiple copies or going on lego.com and buying the parts, right? Because often these modulars are in colors that it's hard to get cheaper from third-party resellers. So like there's a method to the madness, right? In terms of what the Lego Group is doing.
This is perhaps where, like, although we talk about these things, although we think about these things, we might sometimes overestimate how big a group we are within the market that the Lego Group is serving. Because the Lego Group are releasing things like Cafe Corner, like Minifigure Vending Machine. Most people are happy with Cafe Corner. Most people are happy with the Minifigure Vending Machine. They don't need extra Teal astronauts. They don't need extra Kraken Knights. Like, they've got enough within that set for their purposes. So I might want them to do a pack of bonus minifigures that I can, because this is my dream with that Minifigure Vending Machine. I want to buy the actual set as it is, and then I want to buy extra boxes of those minifigures so that I can have them displayed inside the gumball machine and the gumballs and outside of it. And then I can have extras to put with my other space minifigures and my other cat. You got to. But the average Lego builder doesn't want that. This is what the deep, hardcore super fans want. Your average person. And then that's got to make you think, with a company the size of the Lego Group, is it worth them putting the time and resources into that when they know that there are resellers on Bricklink, eBay, other platforms who can serve this need for us? Like we like you say, we'll figure this out. We'll find ways to get the things we need. So do we really need the Lego Group to fill that for us?
Yeah, probably not. But I do think that the vending machine does stand out a little bit in that I feel like the one major exception to this rule of, the Lego Group not necessarily helping us, amass a lot of a certain thing has been minifigures, going all the way back even into the 80s and 90s, where there has almost always been the minifigure packs. Right, where there's, before, now we even call them battle packs, where you can get, a set that has 4 different types of clone troopers or stormtroopers, or, and they've expanded it out where, there have been various castle factions that have had, similar, sometimes they sell them in like blister packs and other things, but there's definitely been a helping hand to amassing large quantities of figures. And back in the day, I remember there were, those little people packs for space or town where you could get, an ice planet astronaut, a Spirius astronaut, and even then for $5 or $6, you could get some extra people. And it does seem like the Lego Group has facilitated that through the years. And so this does feel, I think, like a little bit of an exception with the vending machine. But I do think that minifigures have been the exception to that rule through the years that they have. And then now, of course, obviously with like the Lego Pick a Brick online, bricks and pieces, all of that, where you can go in and order however many torsos of, from the various sets. And I'm guessing they won't make those available this time around. From the vending machine.
I hope they do.
I hope they do, but it would kind of undercut the whole. I mean, unless you want the gimmick, right? I mean, most of us, like, I don't really care about the machine itself. It's a cool build and all of that. Like, it's very interesting, and I'm sure the mechanics of it are really, really fun to see as you're putting it together. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to put that in my house somewhere.
It's turned the set into one that appeals to 2 different audiences, because if this had just had regular minifigures in, or 1 or 2 exclusive minifigures or something, we would have bought it purely for the vending machine, the gumball machine aspect. We'd want that interesting technical build that we can go, oh, wow, this is clever. And it's one of those ones that, like, when your friend comes over who's not that interested in your Lego collection, you're going to show them this one because they're going to go, oh, wow, that is pretty smart. But then by putting all these exclusive minifigures in it, all of a sudden the minifigure collectors like are drawn in, and you can't
Yeah.
ignore it. You can't just disregard it because you're not into the build. You need it for the minifigures themselves.
The Lego group knows how to play us. That's just the way it is. They play us like fiddles.
I mean, hopefully, maybe the minifigures are exclusive to the set for a while, and then they turn up on Pick a Brick. That I think would be the ideal scenario, because yeah, I need extras of these guys, man. I can't, these
Definitely,
minifigures are
yes.
too nice to be locked behind this single set,
Yes.
surely.
I need those Fabuland torsos in my life. That just needs to happen.
I mean, this is where, like, I think what's so fun about it is that, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this if it wasn't such a cool product on like so many different levels. Like, literally, it's one of those ones that I feel like it's got the entire community's attention. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's curious about it.
Yeah, and for like good reasons, like that it's really unique and well done, and not like the say the foosball table where we're all like, oh wow, that's different. So it definitely seems like they hit it out of the park with this one, and definitely seems like we're getting a preview of what the Pokeballs are surely going to look like for next year's Pokemon theme. With that definitely feels like we're gonna see another use for those parts, something that perfectly fits a minifigure. I smell a collectible line on the way.
Daniel, do you have a favorite out of all of these minifigures?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so it again, well played, the Lego group, well played. There's just so many different aspects of it. Of course, the nostalgia aspect of having another new color for my classic space minifigure collection. I mean, that's a strong draw right there. But as a certified Lego Pirates fanatic, as you know, upgraded bosun Will. I mean, come on. Like for those who don't know, that's the pirate figure with the red hat, and so he's a callback to a character that appeared in the pirate comics back in the 80s. The Lego group released a comic with the original pirate theme, and so he was a prominent character within it. So there's some strong nostalgia there as well. But I also love the Fabuland prints and the callbacks to that. There's so much nostalgia bait here. If you were to force me to choose, I think I would have to go with the teal classic space minifigure, just because they've done such a good job of giving us new colors, and then there's just so much lore and history around the teal color, from its origins, in the Rock Raiders, to it getting canceled and that being something that Jamie Berard had to choose. How much of that is true versus something that's been urban legend and all of that. But I'm pretty sure I've heard it from enough sources that, including him, that there's got to be some truth to it. So I think I'd have to go with the teal astronaut. What about you, Graham? What's your must-have if you could only have one?
Before I tell you my must-have, I want to know what everyone else's must-haves were. So if you are hearing this, if you're watching this video, go down there in the comments and tell us who your favorite minifigure is in this set.
And while you're at it, don't forget to like and subscribe, so you'll get reminders whenever Graham and I get together and have another one of these chats.
So yeah, I'm the same as you in that my natural reaction is, and I love the pirate in the white outfit, because you can see how you could use that character in lots of different scenarios. Like, they're not super piratey, so you could potentially have them as some sort of civilian or merchant, or some kind of in-between faction. You can see there's a lot you could do with that particular minifigure. So that's the one that, like, on paper would be my favorite. But what they did with the Paradisa minifigure was such a pleasant surprise and so unexpected that I think that one has to be my favorite, because like the 92 on the back of the torso, as well as having the Paradisa logo on the front, is just sublime. It's
perfect.
Just, yeah. And you can tell that the people who worked on this model are deep Lego fans like we are. You can tell that these are people who passionately care about the history of these products, and yeah, going back to the nostalgia well.
Yeah, 100%. It does make me wonder. I mean, and obviously I get that ideas generally caters to an older audience, but like, I mean, I think about if I gave this set to any of my kids, or I mean, heck, even anyone, even in their 20s at this point, would not have any idea, unless they were into the theme. They would not have lived through any of the themes that these are calling back to. So it is a really cool shout out to us older fans who been around for a while now, and can remember all of these themes and get those little callbacks and see the similarities and how these are evolutions of what originally came out in all of those different product lines. So it is a really, really fun set.
I mean, if you love classic Lego themes as much as we do, if you love deep dives into the Lego world like this, then go to blocksmag.com and have a look at Blocks Magazine. It's a monthly magazine that we create every single month, 116 pages of exclusive content going deep into the Lego hobby the way that adult fans love to. So go check that out. Have a look at the single issues and the great value subscription packages to see if there's something there for you. But Daniel, as usual, this has been a blast. And Absolutely. I think we're going to have to compare notes when we actually get our hands on these minifigures and
Definitely.
Regroup for a discussion about them because, mate, I'm so excited for this set. Like, I can't wait to get my hands on it.
It's going to be a good one. And yeah, anytime, any place you want to talk about Lego stuff, I'll be there. So until next time, take care, my friend.